Dr. Fauci, do you still support funding of the NIH funding of the lab in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, with all due respect, you are entirely and completely incorrect that the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain of function research in the Wuhan Institute.
So this is very interesting, the back and forth. Senator Paul with Anthony Fauci yesterday. Senator Paul is with me now. And sir, good morning to you. I'm going to cut through a lot of the stuff. I know you went back and forth with him yesterday. What is your current theory today as to how COVID started?
I would say we don't know for certain, but I would say what Dr. Fauci said yesterday was verifiably false. He said no NIH money went to the Wuhan Institute for gain of function. Well, the main doctor there, the one they call the bat scientist or the bat woman, is a woman named Dr. Shi Zhengali. She wrote a paper that MIT scientists have looked at that they said was gain of function, meaning juicing up these viruses to make them very potent and infect humans. She wrote this paper, and in the paper acknowledged that her funding came from Dr. Fauci's group, the NIAID, which is part of NIH. So he's verifiably telling you something that is not true. Now, he may be quibbling and saying they weren't doing gain of function or they weren't supposed to, but we've looked at the grant application. In the grant application, we have a cellular biologist from Rutgers who says the grant application is for gain of function, juicing up these viruses. So Dr. Fauci came to Congress yesterday and lied. We can't prove the virus came from the lab. I'm not saying it did. I'm saying there is very much suspicious evidence that it might have.
Senator, what does he have to get? He was under oath, wasn't he, in that hearing?
I don't think he had to take an oath, but what he told the American public was verifiably false.
What does he have to gain, if you're right? I mean, your accusation is that he's not telling the truth. What does he have to win from that?
I think he's worried about culpability. So the person they put in charge of the investigation of whether or not the Wuhan Virology Institute had anything to do with COVID-19, the person they put in charge of the investigation was the guy who gave the money to Wuhan Institute. So they're circling the wagons, and they are deathly afraid that some evidence will come out that this virus escaped the lab. The doctor who runs the Wuhan lab said that she couldn't sleep at night afterwards until she said, I figured out that it didn't come from our lab. She was worried to death it did come from her lab, but now do we take her word for it? She would probably be executed in China if she was responsible for this. She's probably, if it were there, destroyed the evidence. So we'll never know if it came from there. But my point is this. Should the U.S. government be funding these labs in China? China's a rich country. Why are we sending millions of our dollars to a secretive lab where we can't trust what they're doing?
Last question on this. What does it matter if American money was used for this? Maybe the intent was, maybe it was benevolent. Maybe there were good intentions behind this.
I'm sure the intent is benevolent. I'm not questioning people's motives, but we have 11 labs like this in the United States where we're taking animal viruses, we're mixing in other DNA from humans, and we're making them able to be infected into humans. We're creating super viruses. One of the viruses the NIH was funding is the SARS virus. This is a COVID virus from 2004 that has a 15% mortality. Should the U.S. government and taxpayer be juicing up, paying to juice up these viruses to make them super viruses that can infect humans? Is that a good idea? I think it isn't. I think there is a danger that this could happen again in the future with something even more deadly.
Let's hope not. For the record, Fauci said the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain of function
which is untrue.
In the Wuhan
Institute. It's completely untrue. Completely untrue, verifiably false.
One more point here. You just heard us talking, I do believe, through the earpiece about the CDC and the guidelines. Guys, can we pull up a shot of John Kerry? Senator Kerry is now testifying in the Rayburn House building. I don't know if you can see this or not. He's wearing a mask. Have you been in that room, and can you give us a sense of what the room's like as to what would explain why he's wearing a mask?
big as a football field, and for someone who's been vaccinated, absolutely no scientific reason to wear a mask. Everybody in the building, everybody in Congress, including all the staff, have all been offered vaccines by now. There is no spread going on in Congress. To wear a mask is complete theater and goes against all the science, but it's also discouraging people because people are saying, why should I be vaccinated if I'm still have to wear a mask for the rest of my life? So they need to get on and obey the science and encourage people, get vaccinated, and then you can throw your mask away.
That question brought to you by my colleague, Dana Perino. Thank you, Senator Rand Paul.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I just don't get it.
Yeah,
Even